Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, Tom?
I'm good, and you? Good
I'm
morning.
very, very well. I have a bad cold, so I apologize for my voice. But I'm very happy to be here. This is long overdue. One of the biggest
True.
reasons I love this because I can sit down with friends and talk an hour about watches. So this is therapy for me.
Yeah, that's therapy. Yeah.
So so I hope that is this case for our dear viewers and listeners as well. I want to welcome to the virtual studio Tom van Wijlick. Tom van Wijlick. Tom, you can pronounce it also in Limburgs because we always joke
That's
around. It's a
Wijlick.
different
That would be
language.
Wijlick.
Willick, Tom
But
van Willick.
Wijlick, I had a discussion with my wife the other day, and she says Wijlick is not bad as well, so it's okay.
We want to stay as original as possible, but I nicknamed you the Flying Dutchman.
Oh,
So you make
okay.
pilot watches. This
True.
call is long overdue because for my wrist check, I'm going first. I bought an Airain Type 20 a while ago. And I don't know how I convinced you, but I twisted your arm and I drove you mad to team up with us. And we
Yeah,
made a
you didn't leave me any other choice. Yeah.
no, was it a gun or a knife? I don't remember.
Both, I guess. Yeah, but no.
So the background is orange. We teamed up. I'm super proud about our project. It's a
Yeah.
collab that's not a limited edition. It made the core range of Airain.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about both brands because you are the owner of CDMLEC. As we see
Yeah.
on the wall behind you, you are the owner of, well, actually three brands, but we listed today two watch brands. So, Tom,
True.
for the wrist check, which is a tradition, we kick off the show. What are you wearing?
Yeah, I thought about this long. Well, maybe not too long, but a little, but at least, because I just knew that you would rock the Type 20 Ace. So I have the other brand, Lebois, and I have the 497 actually that you recently sold
Yeah,
in your shop. And
yeah.
yeah, this is my this is the watch that I just grab easily like for a day-to-day piece.
So,
Are you going
do
to show it?
you do,
It's
do you ever
there it is.
rock both? You have two wrists, dude.
I do on fairs. I find it funny and also like almost mandatory because I'm representing two brands. So yeah.
Yeah,
So it was on
and
the left, right there. You saw you on the website.
yeah.
You click
So
this away, the 497. So all the way on the left, 324 497.
yeah, lovely, timeless, elegant, and I'm still twisting your arm to do something on this
Yeah.
platform of Lebois Co.
Yeah.
So as you see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not that successful because it's still in the works. Um,
We'll
Lovely.
get
Thank
there.
you for
We'll get there.
sharing. Yeah. For those that are not aware, after the collab, we also became authorized dealers for both brands, Airain and Lebois Co.
Mhm.
So we're very passionate about what you guys do at the CDMLEC offices,
Thank you.
and we're going to talk about both brands. But before we do so, the tradition is to get to know our guests better, and we do that through 7 Ace List questions. So the
Mhm.
first one for you, Tom: what watch or jewel is your favorite and why?
Yeah, it's a watch, obviously. Um, and I would say I stick to our own brand or brands. I mean, I've had so many watches in the past. Um, so from our non our so not our own brands, I'm still in love with the Omega Speedmaster. It's a like a timeless classic, great story. But looking at our own brands, I would say this 497 is really a favorite. And for Airain, just the basic Type 20. It's really my second favorite, or sharing both on the first position. The Type 20 is our equivalent to, be it much smaller in story maybe, but it's our equivalent to the Speedmaster Professional. There's a great story It was originally worn by the pilots in the French army. So yeah, you feel a little bit like a pilot when you strap it on, in my opinion. Well,
Did you?
you can.
You can, yeah. That's what it is, right? It's
Voila.
embrace the inner child in yourself,
Yeah,
and feel a bit of a pilot when you wear these pilot watches. I think we all do. Did
yeah.
you actually own the vintage pieces of both brands? Because you started off as a collector. That's how you got into
Yeah.
the watch hobby, as we know. Did
Yeah.
you actually own vintage Airains and or Lebois before
Yes,
you?
of course. Yeah, yeah. We still buy up as much as we can, as long as it's interesting.
Mhm.
So to keep with the Type 20, we have a vintage Type 20 in our possession, which was of course important to have the right measures, to base a new Type 20 like re-edition, as we called it back then in 2020, to base that on. And yeah, it's still in our possession. We just lent it out, so I cannot show it here, but it's in the UK now. We should get it back before Geneva and show it there, because it's such a a time, how do you say that, a time capsule. You
Yeah,
just
it's a
know
time
this was worn by a pilot. It was a tool being used in the army back then. And yeah, it's still in quite good condition. So yeah, we're very happy to have that. And on the Lebois side, we have actually many more pieces, because that story for us began in 2014. And just recently, we bought something very interesting, which I can show you in a minute. But this, the watch that this watch is basically based on, that I actually never found. I found several other chronographs and small seconds, and watches with dates, etc. But so this one was an auctioned by Christie's in 2012, and that we never found. But
Mhm.
if we ever get the chance, I would really love to have it. It's an oversized piece. So when you're browsing through a website, you will find a link to Christie's, and it's really an amazing piece. So I would love to see it in real life, and have the potential to buy it sometime.
For our viewers and listeners that might encounter vintage Lebois and or Airains, how do they go about to let you guys know? Through the website, or what is the fastest way or best
Yeah,
way?
yeah. They can simply send an email. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Cool.
No problem. Or
Amazing.
through the contact forms. Yeah, we're always interested to hear what's out there and what's popping up, because actually that's a funny thing. Actually, when I bought in 2014 the first two pieces, I think there were like 4 or 5 online, like on eBay. And now at every given point there are like many more, like 15, 20 pieces available at any time. So that's interesting. Well, maybe even more. So, and the same for Iran, or Iran, as it's also pronounced. So that's it's given, I think, also the opportunity for people to, yeah, maybe learn more about the brands, of course, but also to yeah, to basically make some money of all the watches that they have. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Second question. What did you want to be when you grew up?
uh yeah, well, actually, my my father and brother were in logistics, so in transport. And so looking up to them, so to say, so my brother is 6 years older, I always thought, okay, I'm going to be in logistics as well. Why not? Just not as an international truck driver as my father was, but maybe on the upper side, and being able to spend a little bit more time with friends and family at home. And I did. I started there, but pretty soon I got the opportunity to lead an IT project there. So I rolled into IT. And that was in 97, 98. And I was actually still in school. So I graduated there, and then I went to work with a logistics company, but in IT. And from there, I went to really an IT consulting and outsourcing company that had its headquarters in the US. So it's also very interesting to learn from that side. Yeah, and from there, yeah, I was basically in IT all the way until 2021, where I was, doing at some point like 50-50 between that job and building what is now basically CDMLEC.
What does CDMLEC stand for?
We had a discussion about that, huh? So it's to give a little background story. In 2014, so I started Lebois Co, and at some point in 2019, I incorporated it into a different company called Compagnie des Montres Lebois EC. So the French pronunciation of the full company name. That's also on the certificates, on the warranty certificates, and how the name was registered before. But fast forward, at that point in 2018, 2019, we only had Lebois, so the name made sense. But in 2020, when we were able to add Airain to the company, then it wouldn't make sense to have the full name as a company name. So I took the abbreviation for the company, and that's why it's called CDMLEC or CDMLEC.
Amazing. And we see a third brand.
Yeah.
So that's what I referred at. We don't have two watch brands, and that's what we're talking about. But technically, we also sell the Fixoflex bracelets, which are legendary for everybody who remembers them from 50s, 60s. Grandpas maybe wearing them, but the youngsters, well, you and I are not that young, but we're from the Swatch generation. You remember the Swatch straps?
Yeah.
So that's awesome that you guys bought the brand and brought these straps back, because you get them standard with the Sous-Marin, but you can buy them also separately at a very, very reasonable price. So thank you for sharing that personal story. Third question, Tom, who is or was your role model? You can mention multiple ones.
Interesting. So when starting Lebois or reviving Lebois in 2014, I would say I looked in the watch industry most to Jean-Claude Biver. I guess his story is well known, and also seeing what he did to Blancpain, reviving that, or buying it from the Swatch Group, and then building that and eventually selling it back. That's of course a great story. I read his book, so yeah, that's great. Now I would say I'm leaning more towards people also in other industries. Like I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Acquired podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many interesting people coming there with visions that are really inspiring. For instance, the Howard Schultz behind Starbucks. That's like a very inspiring story and vision that he had. So I would lean more towards that at this point.
So did you listen to the Rolex episode by Acquired? This is in a podcast.
I'm still I think I'm 75% in, because it just came out, and we had a
5-hour episodes.
Yeah, break here, and it's 5 hours, so it's a long But indeed, the Rolex is interesting too. Hermes is also recommended, and LVMH as well, of course. It's a very interesting podcast series.
To go back to Jean-Claude Biver, so for those that are less familiar with him, there is a podcast episode that Rob and I actually, he was the first ever guest on the Real Time Show. So the other podcast that I produce. If you're not aware, please go back and listen to that to learn a bit more about the legend and the myth of Jean-Claude Biver. But if we do a deep dive quickly, what did you learn from him as a role model, since you mentioned him as the first one?
So what I read between the lines is that, you know, I cannot say there's one. Well, maybe I'm mistaken, but there's not one, you know, general vision that he has for all the brands. I see him doing different things, and that is what I find interesting to explore further. So how can you manage multiple brands in like a group and have, you know, different missions and visions for each brand? Of course, the mission and vision for CDMLEC is generally to make people happy with great watches and their stories. That's also why I started this whole journey, which we haven't talked about, but having traded, you know, watches from 2011, 2012, the thing that got me going in more into this direction is to basically to make people happy with a product. And at that point, those products were not mine. I mean, I was selling Omegas, Tag Heuers, occasionally a Rolex or a U-boat, if you remember them. That was one of the first that I had. But what has driven me is to make people happy with watches. And I think that you will recognize that in your store. It's amazing to see people live or via email getting a message like, thank you, it's great, and I'm so happy, and I saved up for this occasion or anniversary, and they chose you. So it's, you know, they chose you to buy either, you know, now one of our brands, our products that we thought about and worked out and produced and are very proud of, or at that point those were, you know, other brands, which is fine as well. Getting back to Jean-Claude Biver, I just have a general, I guess, admiration for what he did, and he really followed his path, and he had at some point like this point, you know, on the horizon that we couldn't see, but he just knew was going to strike gold, I guess.
Would you basically call him a visionary? He had a vision,
I
and he
think
went for it blindly.
Yeah.
I want to park that question because I'm going to ask you what your vision are for those two brands. Now, I'm breaking the rules a bit because usually I save the questions for the end, but since StreamYards accepts Instagram nowadays into the feeds, which is not integrated, we have two awesome questions from a viewer on Insta, which is Rai State of Mind. If I may, I'm going to interject these now because people tend to linger less time on Instagram. His first question for you, Tom. He writes, you may have covered this before, but what complication would you love to include into the brand? And I don't know which of the two he refers to, so you can use them both.
Both. Okay. So I'm usually leaning towards what I find interesting, but of course I also have an open mind towards what is out there in the industry. And no, if it would be possible in sort of very long-term vision, it would be something with maybe a collaboration with Christian van der Klauw, for instance, to incorporate that with Lebois, but keeping it closer to ourselves. I would say, you know, moon phase, perpetual calendars, that kind of stuff. That's interesting for me.
for Lebois and Co.
Lebois. Yeah.
Yeah. And is the ambition to push it upwards, tourbillon and high complications, hotologerie? Is that something on the horizon? If we're talking about visionary and Jean-Claude Biver having
Yeah.
done on the horizon?
I would be lying if I haven't thought about that. But generally, in the discussions I have been having over the past few years with either distributors, retailers, or agents, I mean, those are, don't get me wrong, those are super cool features to have, but you will only sell a few of them.
Yeah.
So over a year. And getting back to why I started this is to make people happy with a product that's very good, but reasonably priced, etc. All the, the pillars that you're supposed to have a good service, etc. And reaching as much as people as you can. Yeah, thinking about like a great tourbillon, or even more than that, like 2 tourbillons, or that would be for such a small audience. I'm not sure if that is what we should be pursuing. Not saying that it shouldn't be in the collection, like 1 or 2 pieces somewhere in the future, but in general, it is. I think I get more satisfaction of making more people happy with a great watch.
Thank you for that. Thank you for Rye's state of mind. I want to counter the question back at him. What would you like to see Tom and teams producing? On that topic, I know you guys do virtual coffee sessions where you actually interact with the community, don't you, Tom? So that's something I want to touch on later, because Ray's state of mind is on fire. He already has his follow-up question, which is, if he may, if you started again, what would you have done differently? Excellent question.
So for looking at the 2 brands, I wouldn't have done something different with Airain. I'm happy with that, how we approach that. For Lebois, we did a few series back in 2014, 2015 on Kickstarter. I mean, those had a good response, but those are not watches that I would release having knowing what I know now. So yeah, that I would skip and go more into the history of the brand and reintroduce the watches that we that we found in the in the vintage series that were out there before.
Yeah. So maybe those that don't know the brand so long, I actually liked the modern watches you guys made. It wasn't Ventura, but the Venturist.
Venturist, yeah.
Venturist, right?
Yeah.
Would you bring that back?
Maybe in some kind of form, but it should be more fitting into the collection. So we did a lot of the past year. We did a lot of reflection on what we have done, where we are with the 2 brands, and so for Lebois, I think we really now have the correct DNA for the brand, in my opinion, our opinion, and yeah, that's the Venturous right there. And looking back at that, yeah, I'm still very proud of it. It was, as far as I know, it was the first watch that was OC Plus certified. I'm not sure if how many brands picked up that certification, which is absolutely great because it certifies the whole watch and not just the movement as a COSC certification. So I would be interested to see at some point in time what the Venturers could look like in nowadays, because this is already 2018 we're talking about. So that's fashion wise, also in the watch industry, it's already a little older, so to say.
Interesting. To close the circle with a wry state of mind, he replied, so we're literally creating user-generated content. He writes, Moonface for sure on Lebois, and maybe, in brackets, another complication, a field watch for Airain, despite being more of a pilot's brand.
Yeah.
Thank you for both entertaining this question. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. We love these questions, and we'll deal with questions more towards the end of the episode as well. Going quickly back to the standard questions.
Just a second, my colleague just passed me this, meaning I have to show this, right? So this is a vintage Lebois piece with
Tri-Compacts. Universal Genève, watch out, Lebois Co is coming.
Yeah, so who knows?
Lovely. Fourth question, Tom. If you can daydream, you can go back in time, forward in time, go anywhere in the universe. If you could teleport tomorrow, where would you go?
Assuming I could come back.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
It's your daydream, so you can come back. If you want, you can stay as well.
But that's a good question. I mean, on one side, okay, maybe going back and doing other things, knowing what you know now. But on the other hand, I'm quite practical. I mean, like, okay, what's the point? I'm happy where I am now. All the things that we did brought us here. So why change that? Or why not accept that? And I'm more of a person that I look back and I see that we did some things or stuff that I, having known more back then, should have done differently. But that's not how life works, I guess. So no, I'm just happy where we are now, and that we have the opportunity to influence the way forward. That's basically how I see it.
Okay. Very rare to hear somebody in the watch industry that says he's happy or she's happy and content with their life, because entrepreneur's life is not easy, and in the watchmaking industry is definitely not easy. So kudos for you, and compliments to your wife, because I guess credit goes to her, Tom. So we salute you. Ray's state of mind is on fire.
Oh, this one.
He responded while you put up the Tri-Compacts. Oof, beauty. So, guys, go produce, please. Fifth question for you, Tom. What book are you currently reading, or what book recently made an impression on you, and why?
So I've let's see. I'm actually now starting to read another book about Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the one that Howard Schultz brought, but it's a different book about the strategy. And telling or going back to the book that I think is very interesting to read, it would be this one.
Mm-hmm.
So The Luxury Strategy by Capro and Bastien. That's I mean, there's listening, for instance, to the podcast of Acquired about LVMH and Hermes, you will recognize so much in here, and they are all actually referring to this as well. I think I have all those books except the fourth one, but yeah. So this is really an interesting book, and I've had it since, I don't know, already a few years, and I keep going back to that. It contains a few things that are kind of, I would say, not outdated, but you could argue. But there's like a whole chapter in there, the anti-laws of marketing for luxury brands. And I actually still, going to the Rolex website, for instance, and not being able to buy a watch there, it's in this book, Don't Sell Online. And that you could argue, okay, are we a luxury brand then because we are selling online? Maybe we're not pure luxury. That's true. But you can see that it still works. If a company like Rolex is so successful without selling online, then the book has its truth in there. So that's interesting.
That begs the question: are they successful because they're not selling online? So, but we see you're a philosopher.
Everything,
yeah,
contributes there, of course.
Yeah.
But
would you? Well, I guess that begs the question. You started off as a direct-to-consumer brand. In the years you evolved, you have distributors, retailers, doing collabs. Do you think that it would be possible that when the network expands of ambassadors like us at Ace Jewelers, and I know you have agents in Japan, you have agents in North America, so you guys are becoming a global brand again. Do you think that one day you'll turn off the buy button on your websites? Could that happen?
It could, but I would at this point I would not suggest or lean towards that. Who knows what will be the next trend, but or a trend or like altered vision or altered vision for the brand. But I think it will be for brands like us, to put it that way. I think it's very reasonable to have this button, because we are selling all over the world, and to places that I just know we're not getting retail very soon. So yeah, like if I see the ship list that we had in 2024, yeah, I can only dream to be in all of those places.
Yeah, I hear you.
But sorry, to come back to that, what it doesn't rule out is to have a personal connection with people. For instance, we have sold a Type 20 to New Zealand, it was, and this customer reached out to me on LinkedIn, first asking me questions about, are you legit, or if I pay the money, will I get the watch? And so I built a personal connection with that person first before shipping the watch, after he bought it online. So it doesn't rule out a personal connection. You just have to be there when the customer asks questions, and that can be either in a shop, through a distributor or retailer, or online, or Instagram, or Facebook, LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah. So omni-channel retail, and something that we never thought, but you can see you can shop on both platforms, either at Airain.com or at acejewelers.com, and it works. So it's interesting times indeed. Talking of predicting the future and what the future holds, we always ask our guests what they think colors are going to do in the future. We're on the brink of Q2. We're going to the biggest fairs of the year in the watch industry. A few more weeks and we are going to party in Geneva together as well.
It's work, Alon. It's not party, it's work.
Well, you and I love what we do, so every day is a party. You just told me you're content, and so am I. So I think
but work can be fun. Work can be fun.
We both need to see a shrink, or it's the hairdo.
Yeah,
We lost
yeah, I
all our
know.
gray cells. So no, but on a serious note, we push the envelope. Orange, orange.
Mhm.
We like colors. The both brands aren't originally colorful. You made actually very cool watches. You played with colors. Fuji Fite. You made an Airain that's all grayish. You
Yeah,
made a auction piece that's pink, right? You made
pink.
a pink dial.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Two actually. Yeah,
Here
yeah,
I want to show it. Here, a watch I love. Looks very stealthy.
yeah,
Obviously, I'm not objective, but I love our orange play on things. I love the collab with Second play on
yeah.
colors as well, comic theme. So, A, what do you think is the trend for colors in general, watch industry, and for your brands?
Um, so what we kind of betted on for our upcoming pieces, yeah, we did some interesting colors, but also looking at what I believe Pantone chose for 2025, that would be that was a brown shade. So we are having some brown in the collection, as well as some poppy colors for the Soumarine.
Yeah.
And we did something. I'm checking here something that we are trying out now, like yellowish and burgundy for Lebois. But we are sampling that first. That's all I'm going to say for now.
So,
Otherwise, I have
dear
to take
viewers
the
and
pictures and
listeners,
show it.
yeah, dear viewers and listeners, if you want a particular color, hit them up, stalk
Yeah,
them.
sure, sure.
They listen, they give a listening ear. So this is a
We do.
submarine that I love. It's a bit of
Yeah,
an emerald, tropical sea-ish green. So you
I
guys
know, and
there,
remember that green was already a little bit, I don't know, off trend, I guess. I don't know, but it doesn't go that fast in the watch industry, in my opinion. But that's actually our bestseller for the whole collection. The ocean green, as we call it, Submarine.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, lovely. Okay, last question, rhetorical question, because we shot a video together in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Coming from the south, we always make fun of our dear Limburgers that you're more Belgian than Dutch,
You're
but that's a
breaking up.
war.
Sorry, I cannot. Sorry, what's that?
But tell us what you do love about Amsterdam. Please do.
Amsterdam is amazing. So to me, as how do I put that right? I mean, I'm in the south. Indeed, the jokes about keep them coming. We're not a part of Belgium, and we won't be, because for us, Belgium feels quite different from here. To have a little anecdote, when I borrow when I drive my mother's car, she has a Belgium radio station on it, and I'm like, no, we are in Holland, so we listen to a Dutch radio station. But having said that, I mean, I love Belgium. Don't get me wrong, but we really feel Dutch. And with that said, we have two great cities in Holland that I love to visit. We have many more, but my favorite ones are Maastricht and Amsterdam. And it's for my wife and I, when we have a little bit more time, and the kids. With the grandpa and grandma, then we tend to go, for a few nights in Amsterdam, just stroll around and enjoy the city. It's so different from here, where it's quite more quiet or a little rural. And that's just it's a great city to be in and to be part of, really. And it's not that big like for instance New York, where you have actually so many different areas and cities in one. Amsterdam is still manageable for a few days, and then coming back, of course, there's the quietness again, and that's nice as well. And my favorite memory, that's difficult because we visit Amsterdam multiple times a year. So that's what we did do in the Kickstarter period. So 2015, 2016, we did a few, like so to say, roundup dinners in Amsterdam with the people that were interested to collect their watch there. And there were actually a few people from the UK and from Israel even coming to pick up their watch there. And Amsterdam has, as you know, great venues to have good dinners and to go out. Yeah, so that's a good memory.
Thank you for not bashing our hometown.
No, because I'm literally a fan. So yeah.
Thank you. You and I have this problem perpetually. We're both chatterboxes. I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're already two-thirds
I didn't
in.
even finish my coffee yet. So.
Yeah. I kept you on your toes. We're two-thirds in, and we soon need to go to the questions. We had some viewers that couldn't join live that sent their messages up front, their questions. Okay. What I would like to do now, with your permission, Tom, maybe for our viewers and listeners that are not that familiar with all three brands, maybe should we touch upon all three, and you do quick elevator pitches, and we run down all three and just say what they're about, quick history, and what makes them special. Is that okay? Should we start with Airain?
Let's start with Lebois.
Lebois, okay.
Because
the middle.
Because so in 2014 I revived Lebois. I was able to revive thanks to the kind people at the Dodin family who didn't own the brand officially anymore, but were happy to give me the green light to go and to give me some insights in the history. Back then it was 80 years old, so to say. It was founded in 1934. So what Lebois is now, it's we don't do real reissues there, but we really take inspiration of the old pieces that have been out there and translating them into a new era with a correct nowadays look and feel of the watch, while still having this vintage feeling and vibe. So you could from a distance mistake it for a vintage piece, but when you hold it, you will feel that it's produced to current standards, and in the highest possible, for the price that we offer, for the highest possible finishing that we can do. And in this case, we do. All our watches are Swiss made, but even the cases we do in Switzerland, as in the highest quality that we can. So that's Lebois. And there's actually coming. We are developing some other pieces there in the same spirit, like the heritage spirit, but less complicated. So think about central seconds, small seconds, fitting the current heritage collection.
When can we expect those?
This year.
Launch in Geneva in a few weeks.
We can maybe show some pieces there. No, we are still working on that. So Geneva is of course important, but for all the noise that's going on there, we go to Geneva to meet people, to show, and we have a whole book with the new stuff that we're making. But the launch will be a little bit later, when it's a little less noisy and more quiet.
Okay. Airain?
So with Airain, or Airain as it's officially pronounced, those watches that we see here that we made, the Type 20 and the Sous-Marine, those I can really say are more on the reissue side, having felt and seen the you've seen the vintage pieces, if I remember correctly, in Geneva. Those are super close to the current ones, because back then, in the 50s and 60s, watches were already pretty good. They're already to a higher standard compared to the Lebois kind of watches that were made in the 30s and 40s. So that is so. Having said that, when you hold a piece like a Type 20 or a Submarine, you could be really mistaken for, okay, is this like an old piece that was new old stock, or what is it? It's really only on the inside that you will have your engine, your movement, that it's super modern. And for that, I think that is the pitch for Airain is really that you have the possibility to own like a vintage piece without all the hassle and troubles that you would have with an actual vintage piece.
How far off is it actually? Can you say in percentage wise how close to the original pieces the moderns are? The Type 20s, I mean?
So Type 20 is a little bit bigger because of the movement.
Yeah.
So we went from like 38 millimeters to 39 on the case and 39.5 on the bezel. So that's really super reasonable. So yeah, you can work that out in percentage. That's really small.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the crystal, the first production that I think you still have, it had the plexiglass, the plexi crystal.
Yeah, I have one of the first. Yeah.
But we decided to go for sapphire. It just feels a little bit more robust, but we kept it in the exact same dimensions. So putting the two together, you will hardly see any difference there. And for the Submarine, we really kept the dimensions very close. We were able to have a Submarine during a visit in Paris for my collector, because they're super rare. The original Airain Submarines are not upper sill very often. And we did all the measurements that we could make, and we just said to our dear designer Mathieu Allègre, okay, just redo this watch, but again with sapphire crystal, and of course a modern movement by La Jouperet. And maybe to briefly touch the Submarine, it has the Parmentier crown, an invention. So by Jean-René Parmentier in 1962, it was patented, which allowed to have water resistance on the crown area, where the watch would be super fragile for water or dust to come in. And we redid the whole system, so not making that a crown without, there you see it. Not making that just a crown that would turn. You can really take off the cap, then there's your real crown. And we did a little improvement there to make sure that when you would unscrew the crown cap by accident, that you wouldn't lose it that fast, because there's an extra protection ring inside that you really have to pull it out of from the real crown beneath it. And those are things that we sometimes get the feedback like, okay, was this really necessary? No, it wasn't. But well, also it was, because we feel and we believe that a reissue should be as close as possible to the original pieces. So that's why the system is there.
Wonderful. Last brand, Fixoflex.
Fixoflex. Yeah, so Fixoflex was, we still have to develop stuff there, basically, because we only have one bracelet currently, which is 20 millimeters in width and fits the Soumarine, but also fits like the Type 20, of course, and the Lebois. It was just too. Looking at, I don't know if you have the poster of the Soumarine, but we had this 1960s poster of the Soumarine that we were able to buy in France, and there it had this Fixoflex bracelet on, so it was only logical for us to go and pursue and try to have this bracelet back, and then having the opportunity to re-register Fixoflex, because that's what we did. It was just, for us a great and golden opportunity to add it to our little group of brands.
Amazing, and I'm very happy that you did. Super cool.
And they're not hair pinchers, by the way. So that's also, the new production.
I vouch for that.
No, it's really a comfortable. I mean, having touched the old ones, those were pretty sharp, and they could pinch your hairs. But the new ones, no, they're amazing.
We have our mutual friend, Manne van der Tijd, podcast guru Frederick Middelhoff watching, writing, "My friends." I pulled up this comment because he is officially now a papa. Congratulations, Fred.
Oh, congrats.
Very happy for you. So we wanted to give you a shout out on air. And we have a question for you, since you usually interview, but we're going to interview you now. What watch are you going now to either receive as a gift from your dear partner or buy for yourself as a heritage piece for your child? Good one, huh?
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
We'll counter back the ball after him interviewing us all the time.
Yeah, true.
Tom, before we dive into the questions, is there anything else you wanted to quickly say, mention, shout out? Fred is answering Soumarine. So he said it on air. So he said it on air, Fred.
Cool. Yeah, I know he's I know from the recording that we did a few weeks ago that he's a fan. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So definitely for our Dutch listeners, go listen to the podcast Mannen van de Tijd. Fred is one of the trio, and Tom has been on the show like I have been in the past. Great guys. So very cool. So I'm pulling it up here on air. So it's official. Fred, you're effed now. You need to get one. We'll engrave it for you free of charge, right, Tom?
Of course.
With his child's name and date of birth.
Yeah, that's cool.
He keeps on going. He writes all money spent on diapers now.
Diapers. Is it diapers or
diapers? So the most sustainable solution, Fred, is take these muslin cloths and reuse them. You can wash them. That's how they did it back in the days. Okay. Enough with the banter. Tom, we have many questions that we received. Relevant one to the last one about CDMLEC. Somebody asked, will you add a third brand to your portfolio? I think the person did not know that Fixoflex is a third one. So they probably mean a third watch brand. What's going on at CDMLEC?
Maybe at the point in time that it would make sense. Let's be honest. My vision would be to have between 3 and 5 brands in this company, but it has to, there's the timing issue, and it has to, you can only devote so much time in a week, in a month, to building what you have now, and that should be done in the correct way. So if the possibility comes and it feels right, yeah.
Okay, so we can expect 2 more at least, boys and girls.
Maybe.
one that actually links. It's a good segue. Somebody sent the
Yeah.
question: will you ever make a brand from scratch? So start up your own. So in those 2 or 3 more brands that you want to add to your holding company, do you think you'll start one that's not a retro vintage heritage brand?
Could be a possibility. Yeah. Oh,
Something you're
I mean,
exploring.
we have well, it's lingering, but we have talked about it in the past as well. Why not? But all in in the correct at the right moment, so to say. But it could be a possibility. Yeah.
We have Rick, our colleague from A Blog to Watch Weekly, joining in. Good morning, Rick. Thank you for joining. Sorry I could not join yesterday's recording of A Blog to Watch Weekly live stream. I hope you did deal with the watch I requested. So I'm going to rewatch the recording. Thank you for tuning in. Another question, Tom. We have less than 5 minutes, so I need to scroll quickly. This is an interesting one. We didn't talk about Type 21 at all. So somebody asked, what's the difference between a Type 20 and a Type 21? So that collector is referring at Airain Type 20, Type 21 watches, which we both have in stock. Please educate us, Tom.
Yeah. So back in the 1950s, the first spec was the Type 20, which was so the spec drawn up by the French Army for the watches being used in the Air Force, in the Army Light Aviation, and that was Type 20. And at some point in time, they made a new spec called Type 21, which was the successor of the Type 20. And there were only a few things that were, more strict. It had to have a longer service intervals. Why we have the Type 20 the Type 21 next to the Type 20 is because we found a Type 21 which was slightly different than the basic Type 20. It had a darker dial, it had a different logo, and it should have on the inside a better regulated or more easy to service movement. We weren't able to acquire the watch at that point, so we saw it on auction. But we decided to reintroduce the Type 21. It also had this loom triangle you see on the bezel. On the inside, currently, we have the same movement as a Type 20 because it's already up to modern specs. So the only difference now is the visual aspect. It's more of a polished black dial compared to a anthracite grayish black dial on the Type 20. So it's basically a matter of preference in aesthetics.
I understand.
If you would have to choose between the two.
I just got a WhatsApp message following up to this one. Will you make an Airain Type 22? And I've been asking you this as well many times. And did anybody ever? So for our viewers, very quickly, Type 20s were mil spec by the French Air Force after Second World War. Few specifications, type, chrono, flyback, etc. Right? Legibility. The evolution was specs Type 20, Type 21 were follow-up mil specs. There were never Type 22 issued, right? Mil specs.
For Airain, no.
But
no.
Did the French Air Force issue them?
I know Breguet did Type 22, but I don't know when the first came out. Not sure about that. So that's something interesting.
Is it made up by them, or is it French requested government?
I'm not, as far as I know, there's no official Type 22 spec as we have seen the spec sheet of the Type 21 and Type 20. So
they dreamed.
Could be, yeah.
Would you make a Type 22?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think it would fit nicely in the going, forward in the collection of pilot watches for Airain, a Type 22 with some other, layout and complication could be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so we passed the 1 hour mark. I beg our viewers and listeners, if you want a Type 22 or whatever, shoot us or Tom or CDMLEC or whomever a DM, message, email, whatever, or a mock-up of a render that you make. I actually, while I'm listening to you and talking about Type 22, I remember that tomorrow morning I'm recording for the Real-Time show with the founder of Albis Horn.
Cool.
And this is something that I've been meaning to ask you for a long time. What do you think of this? This is a brand that is dreaming up retro-inspired watches that have never been.
Yeah,
So
the
they
imaginary ancestor, I really like it. It's cool. Yeah.
So to be continued. Tom, I think we need to have you back on the show. Thank you so much.
No problem.
For sitting down with me. It
My
was
pleasure.
long overdue. And I want to thank all our viewers or our listeners, even if you didn't join in real time, because this will stay in the digital archives forever. Next Tuesday, we're welcoming the founder of Awake Concept, Lillian Thibault. So make sure to tune in at 9:30 again. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please do contact us. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.